get back to it with Robert. He is my guest tonight. He's Robert. You don't have a website, do you?
Michael, I used to have a website, but that kind of all went away because I basically, transitioned out of the show, and I left my name to a certain network, which I don't need to name any of that stuff because what's important is here right now, what
Right.
you're doing. So I kind of had to let that all go and gave it away. So no, I don't have a website. And folks, I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to convince you of anything, and I'm not selling anything.
Well, I noticed
I'm simply
that.
here
That's
speaking my truth.
That's why I asked, because that's why I sent you an email earlier today, and I said, "Is there anything you want me to promote?" And you just want to come on and speak your truth. Hey, no one appreciates that more than I do. So, but yeah, there's
and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's it, Michael. It's about speaking truth, doing the research, opening your eyes, and really being aware of what's really going on. Don't fall into the blinding mainstream propaganda that everything's okay and everything will go on as normal. That is why we are where we are. This is why we are being chemtrailed. This is why none of the meteorologists will really truly tell you what's happening on the planet. This is why most scientists are shut down or shut up or killed speaking any truth of what's going on in outer space and in our inner space, because it is a complete and total manipulation. And Michael, they've had 70 years to take control of this situation, to manipulate everyone with what? What is the one thing that manipulates everybody? The money, the cash, the greenback. That's what does it. And the ones who say, no, I'm not doing it, well, they end up silenced in a different way. And we live, in my opinion, Michael, we live on a captured planet. We live on a prison planet.
Well, I agree with you.
Prison planet.
I agree with you, Robert. And I've seen the video of the spaceships flying around by our space station out there, and how they'll turn the camera off when these things get in view. I've seen them with my own eyes. I showed them right here on the YouTube feed that we do a week ago, I don't know. So time is like, it's non-existent here. It's like, Jesus, we do so much, but yeah, I've seen it. And I believe, just like the hacker said, who hacked NASA, there is a Navy fleet in space. I mean,
Gary McKinnon, without a question,
yes,
Space Warden.
I emailed back and forth with him. As a matter of fact, he's told me at some point he'll give me an interview. But I asked him, can I at least ask you what you found? And he told me. He says he came across documents that it talked about the Navy fleet, the space security fleet. They've got a Navy fleet in space, in orbit. I mean, they're out there flying around.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, without a question. My mind is going.
And he talked about some kind of non-human security force too. I forget exactly how it was worded.
Non-human and human security forces. And here's a connection that I don't know if a lot of people have put together in regards to this, the famous case, Fire in the Sky.
Travis Walton, yes.
Travis. Well, probably a lot of people saw the movie, but that was a Hollywood fiction. If you listen to Travis, and I have at some of his lectures, he says what they showed the movie is a complete joke. The reality, what experience, is a lot they left out. When he was in this space, when he was in this specific room, more like a star chart map room of some kind, and he was able to play with some of the, I guess, joysticks or panels, whatever they were, looking at different parts of space. He couldn't understand the technology, but yet he was able to manipulate it well. A human entity, and he said he was human, came in and escorted him out. This guy was in a suit of some kind, and he was perfectly human, interacting with non-human entities, okay? In where he was brought onto this very large hangar where there were lots of crafts. Well, there's a connection for you right there. You have human entities and non-human entities in this very large hangar, most likely in outer space. Space Warden. They talk about all these very large crafts, the triangular crafts, but these very large-looking rectangular crafts. I mean, huge.
And I've seen the rectangle. I've seen the triangle crafts too myself. I mean, man, I'll tell you what. If people aren't used to this kind of thing and they get sitting down with me and I tell them some of the stuff I saw, they'll swear that I must be, some junkie off the street.
Yeah, of course, Michael. Of course you are. Of course you are. We all are.
But I look for this stuff. I mean, I keep my eyes posted to the sky. I practice what I preach. When I'm outside, it's a waste being out there if I'm not looking up in that sky. I'm always looking for stuff.
My eyes are always in the skies, whether I'm looking for an extra planetary body or whether a triangular craft. My eye is always in the skies. And lately, I've been looking at Venus. And let me ask all of you out there, all your listeners, Michael, how many of you are out there looking at this, our planet Venus, and has anybody noticed how extremely bright it has been? It has never been this bright, and is, in my opinion, closer to us than it ever has been. What has perturbed its orbit to bring it that much closer to us to make it that much brighter? Or is it an extra...
I noticed that. I noticed it too. Very, very, very bright. Now I don't know. I don't. Other than to say that I agree with you, it's awful freaking bright. I don't know.
The luminosity has increased by 2 or 3-fold, Michael. And I always go with my common sense train of thought. Okay. I've been on this planet 50 years, Michael. I've never seen Venus that bright and that long in the night sky through the months and months and months, okay? So if everybody can go back and in YouTube or the Internet, even going back to the 2000s, the information's there. Has anybody ever seen our little Venus that bright? And I say no. So using my common sense, I say, well, what would cause it to be so bright? Would it be our sun? Well, they say that our sun has gone into a quiescence. In other words, that the solar maximum is over and we're entering a solar minimum. If that's the truth, the brightness has dwindled from our sun slightly, causing that little planet to be not so bright. But yet here we are looking at it. I'm staring at it right now, Michael, out my back door. I've got it open. And it's brighter than I've ever seen it in my life.
It is.
So what would cause that?
You're right. It is awful bright. We've got a call here. We've got JB on the line with us, and we won't just abandon that. What do you think, JB? Is Venus bright? Have you noticed? JB, you there? Junk box? Well, he's on here, but we're not hearing him.
I hope your phone lines are working, Michael. I know you've struggled with this for the last couple of months, and I feel bad. I mean,
well,
tough thing.
We should be hearing them right now, but here's the thing. What happens is, as soon as Skype starts to work for me, which it did last night, all of a sudden the next day I get, it's time to update again. I mean, I've never seen so many updates for Skype in all my life.
And who owns Skype now? Who owns Skype?
Microsoft.
Huh? Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
So going one more time there, JB, you with us? No, he's awful. He's as bright as Venus here on the screen, but I don't hear anything. I don't know. Try again, I guess. But yeah, it is bright. I don't know. But we have some questions here in the chat too. Marine asks, what's the latest best predictions on Nibiru and by who? And of course, you're talking about Venus, and look at this now. Now he's calling back in, and now it's saying answering the call. We'll put active call on hold. These SOBs over at Skype, It was working fine yesterday. They make me do an update today, and now it's not working again. Now, am I a conspiracy theorist, or are they? I want to curse so bad. Are they screwing with me or not?
I know, Michael. I know.
I mean, come on with the horse shit. I mean, enough is enough. Well,
And you're absolutely right, but this is what they do. I was dealt these blows night after night just like you are. This is all done on purpose to suppress information that they don't want the people to hear. It's as simple as that. Or for even if people call in to just disrupt the conversation in order to distract people, say, oh, well, I don't want to hear this because look what's going on. Maybe I'll catch it another time. This is what they'll use any means of suppression in order to dissuade people from participating or being attracted to any particular subject. It doesn't have to be Planet X or whatever, to dissuade them from hearing truth coming out of who? Citizens who are doing their research, not the mouthpieces of the government, paid propaganda, mainstream scientists or press or whoever, in order to tote the company line, so they can keep everybody in line, Michael. This is what it's all about, brother.
yeah. It's just very frustrating for me. And then you'll go and you'll try to contact them, and of course you can't get on the phone with these schmucks. So you got to get into a chat, and you're in the chat with AI, artificial intelligence, and so you don't get anywhere, and it's
and plus all the paid dissenters from the paid government, dark government entity dissenters to troll everybody's site out there.
Yeah, well, I'm just one cord away from getting my my Thatch 2 connected up here so that I could start using the landline. And it's like, I don't know. There's always obstacles in the way. And I shouldn't have to do that because I pay for my account with these criminals at Skype. Who are total. I mean, is anyone else having this problem? This has been going on for what, 3-4 months now? This is ridiculous. I mean, Jesus.
Michael, you're not the only one. Everybody suffered through this. As I said, I went through this. I mean, I'll give you one particular incident quickly and get back to what we were talking about. When I was doing a show with Clifford Stone, brilliant guy. I mean, he was in the thick of it all, man. And he was talking about Western Pistol, which was part of the UFO cover-up, and how they were retrieving crafts and how the government used their tactics, their governmental what's the word here? I can't think of the word. How they box everybody in. What's the word I'm looking for here, Mark? I'm at a loss of the word.
No.
Compartmentalization.
Oh,
okay?
yeah. Okay.
Okay. That how Clifford Stone was in the thick of it, and once we started speaking about Western Pistol, man, they cut us off. But it wasn't Clifford that they cut off. You know what they did? When I was doing my show, they cut me off, and for 20 minutes, I kept thinking that Clifford was cut off. They cut my whole computer off, the whole show. It took me 20 minutes to figure it out, get back into the show. And at the end of that show, by the way, here's this beautiful black helicopter, probably 20 minutes after the show, and everybody in my family could attest to this. This black helicopter comes floating over my house and just hovering there. And I opened the door to my studio. I'm just looking at it. Here's this thing going, and I'm just sitting here looking and waving. And the next night, I told those SOBs, I said, look, I said, you guys think you understand what's going on? You have no clue what's going on. You're being used. You're cannon fodder. I said, when this thing comes down, you think you're going to find yourself with the keys to the Golden City? I said, you're going to be left outside just like all of us.
And
they're just using you.
And here's the thing with stuff like Skype. Now you could tell these whatever you're speaking with, they're artificial intelligence as far as I'm concerned. But even if they're not, right? You could tell them, well, I'm going to cancel my account. And they don't care. They really don't give a damn. It's like, so what? We got what we need. You know, and
Yeah,
I hate to
no,
go.
you're right.
I hate to go conspiracy on it. I really don't. There's people out there who go, see, they're after me. I'm not doing that. But I'm telling you, this is just a little ridiculous. How when this has been a pattern every month. It'll start to work. There'll be a day at night when everything's finally on track, and then they give me this freaking update to do, and it destroys it again. It's like, here's another update. Everything's working. Let's screw it up for you again.
Michael, quit updating it. Stop updating it.
I have. Listen, I have. And then what they do is it updates on its own. I've turned off automatic updates. Ira's my technician. That man knows what he's doing. He's got in there and turned it all off. Skype themselves have gone in. They've asked for permission to go in and do my settings and set me back on Skype to a later version. They've done all that, and you know what? They say, "Oh, it won't update now." Yes, it does. It doesn't. It just automatically does it. Doesn't matter what you got turned off. I mean, it is total artificial intelligence control, and I'm not making any of this up. They just come in and do it. They turn computers on and off whenever they want to. I'll be sitting in this studio, and not this computer I broadcast on, but the other one that I get in the chat room with. It'll just come on by itself. And lately, this one that I broadcast on, I'll be Monday. I was getting ready for my show. It's about 8 o'clock. All of a sudden, it just shuts off. Just turns off, so I lose everything I was working on. It's like, how does that happen? I mean, it happens to wait until I'm at a critical moment to go on the air or whatever. It's ridiculous.
They're using their programs to control your computer and probably a lot of other people's. That's probably part of the whole Google deal that's going on, where they're basically just wiping people off Google. So, if you don't have their actual website, you're not going to find them for, 10, 20 pages. It could be even worse than that. The tyranny is getting worse and worse by the day, Michael. And what you're facing is just part of it. And you know what? I think you're right. If you do the landline phones, you can bypass all this garbage, good old-fashioned solid state technology, and they can't screw with you anymore. But I feel for you, man. I know.
Yeah, well, I'll get it worked out. All that happens is when this stuff happens. This is what's made me, and I'm not trying to be arrogant now, but this is what's gotten me to where I am so far, is that the attacks. And then we have to be better. We just have to upgrade things and make things even better. So we'll keep doing it. That's all. I'm certain I'm never going to give up. But about Nibiru. Marine wants to know, what's the latest best predictions on Nibiru and by who?
Okay, my thought process is this. I can't specifically say by who, because everybody now is in the community is following it, okay? You've got Bill Martin channel. You've got Nibiru, Planet X 2016. You've got Steve Olson, you've got, so many people out there, whether it's they're looking at the magnetic pole shift, whether it's the physical pole shift, looking for the physical planets in the skies. I mean, there are literally tens and tens and tens of hundreds of people out there, and then other people are taking taking those videos and re-uploading it because they want that information to spread. So by who is really tough. I think it's it's a greater community of people that are all contributing together to bring this information forward to everybody. Now, from my personal point of view, because this is going back years ago with Bob Dean, and I hope you all are aware who Bob Dean is a very dear friend of mine. He's very old now. But going back those years, he had said that there's a connective story to what I'm going to say here, Michael, is that when Bob Dean made the statement, he said, look, Nibiru is going to be here in 2017, most likely September. He says you can take that to the bank. Now, why do I believe him? Because my friend Bob Dean has always been honest and true about everything he says. All the information that he's gotten from his deep, good old boys network has always panned out to be true, not to mention the fact that he is a contactee himself and has gotten that downloaded information himself. So I believed him 100%. Now, you can go back many, many years with the idea of Planet X and how it all came about. I think it was Percival Lowell with the Lowell Observatory out here in Flagstaff, Michael, who was searching for Planet X. So we're talking about over 100 years here. 117 years now, the search for Planet X. And we've all heard the same stories. I'm sure most of your audience has been on YouTube and, have seen the information from the various sources, whether non-governmental, governmental people who have worked on the idea of Planet X and the perturbations of, Saturn and Uranus, and why this has been happening. They couldn't figure out why. I think they figured that out, Michael, in the mid-1950s and 60s when they were developing the anti-gravity crafts, which they had gotten already from the ETs. See, what I try to do in my research is try to compile a bigger picture of information. Why, the ETs were here? Well, okay, they said that they were here because we had discovered atomic energy and were blowing up bombs. They say that it was causing ripples within, I guess the
fabric of time, maybe.
The fabric time structure, that it would affect many, many other planets. So they came here to talk to us, to reason with us. Say, hey, look, you're just getting out of your crib and you're growing up. You might want to understand what's going on, and if you do this, this is what's going to happen. And of course, as ignorant children, we want to throw a tantrum, saying, no, I have to do it my way. So we continued our stupidity down this road of destruction. And they basically laid out a course of timelines for us, that if you continue down this road, this is what's going to happen. Now, even going back much further in time, I think the great prophets had already foresaw this time. Mother Shipton with her predictions. I hope everybody's aware of what she had said. This is supposedly, okay, there's been many theories on who Mother Shipton was, but how could you be so descriptive and accurate in the, I guess, poetry that Mother Shipton put together? They were talking about exactly through the times we're living right now. Nostradamus, of course, a great and famous figure throughout history for predictions. Seems to be that he's been pretty accurate throughout the ages. Even some people saying predicting 9/11. I don't know if that's absolutely true, but of course he had to work what's the word here? He had to use, not soliloquies, that's not the correct word, but like a certain sort of ideograms, so he would not be suspected of being a heretic because of knowing the future, because he would have been called a witch, in essence. Of course, there was the great Edgar Cayce, who said, someone asked him particularly, what does our future hold for us in the far years in the future to come? And he says, well, in the beginning, in the early part of the 21st century, there would be a pole shift. Many great upheavals would happen, land masses would rise, land masses would fall. But as we move forward through time, Michael, there have been more and more and more people who have had these visions, okay, all saying and predicting the same thing in essence. Yes, with little changes here and there, but how could, this is the thing you have to look at. You say to yourself, how could all these people throughout time have all these messages of these massive changes taking place and increase, and all be so closely related? Who and why is this message being brought forward? The message here, Michael, in essence, is change. The problem with most of humanity, Michael, is they fear change. They don't want things to change. Hence, why have the elites have control over us for so long? This has been millennia. This has just been 100 years or 200 years. This has been going on for thousands of years.
Well, because the elites, they figured it out, and they came up with the excellent plan. It's like, keep the sheeple comfortable, and you know, they'll never think twice about it. You know, basically, yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's just like the rat. If the rat's got food and shelter, the rat doesn't take, everything's normal. This, you know,
they always expect themselves to be on top, so they always want the game to be the same. But what's changed is the frequency and attitude of the human race, because we have been able to exponentially wake up through this process of change. This is what they've been fighting, the process of change, because they know what's coming. And this basically, their last chapter has been written, and now our chapter is being written. It's the second volume, okay? Second volume of Planet Earth, Humanity, Volume 2. Theirs is being closed out, and ours is being open. And this is what they fear, because they fear loss of control. What they have, how they have had us captured for so long. This is their fear. Now, this can end very badly, or it can end in a way that humanity can go through this process without, again, being completely wiped out. Because remember, they still have control over all these nuclear weapons, Michael. At any one time, any one of these psychopaths, sycophantic, pedophilic sickos can get to somebody who can push a button and, you know, start letting these nukes go off. Now, I don't think it's going to get to that point. You know, I don't think it's going to happen, but it's a possibility. And the only reason I say that is because of Billy Meyer, who's been telling us, you know, and has given us prediction after prediction, which have all been 100% accurate, that these events will all take place, which they all have happened. And you got to go read Billy Meyer's stuff. Absolutely 100% accurate.
I've had Michael Horn on a few times. He's played out a pretty good case for Michael. Absolutely. Great case.
Yeah, without a question, Michael. So, but even Billy Meyer wasn't. They told him not to talk about, and he still hasn't brought it forward. And I don't know if Michael Horn has, because I spoke with Michael many times. And you know, we had our differences, but Michael's right on, straight shooting guy, and I appreciate that about him. But even even Billy wasn't allowed to talk about certain events that were going to take place. And that meaning, I believe, the binary system, Planet X, you know, we all refer to a single planet or binary system, but I think that they wanted us to face this event, you know, moving forward, going forward, in a way that we could experience it, and what happens is what happens, but the human race will continue forward into an elevated level. So you have so many people, many famous people, and some not so famous, you know. A lot of people I met at the UFO congresses throughout the years had the same exact experiences, others not. And here's the separating thought about this, that I think the benevolent extraterrestrials who, like myself, have been contacted by, have given us the understanding that, hey, look, these events are going to take place, but it's up to you how you deal with them and how you go through this. Where on the other side, there there have been a contact. So who've been getting kind of like the same information, but they've been, how do I want to say this? They've been given the idea that, the whole thing is doom and gloom and it's all going to end. And in my opinion, there's no such thing because we're still here. And I absolutely believe that we are a genetic product of extraterrestrials who have been here like lit the molten hell, has said many, many times, and I actually believe her because she's an excellent, excellent reporter and researcher. They've probably been here 270 million years or maybe more.
Well, I think we're the original Martians myself. I think that's where we started, at least, us, maybe not our creators, but us.
Right. Well, I guess there's two sides to that, Michael. I mean, it all has to start from somewhere. And Lloyd Pye, I mean, if did you ever get a chance to interview him? I wish I had. I tried to get him on before he passed away, but the guy was brilliant. And it all comes down to genetics. And I mean, he talked to geneticists. He says, and he was given information by geneticists. They never revealed themselves because they would have been killed or otherwise completely destroyed through the companies they worked with, which were most likely governmental operations anyway. Says, Lloyd, he says, absolutely, we're genetically modified. We were created from two different species, period. It's a fact, in the book. Everything
I bet. I'm telling you, I look at the Book of Revelations and I think, boy, that was a horrible time on Mars. And, I'll tell you, read it backwards and I don't know, it kind of, you could put it together, I guess. But here's another question. Marine Share, what is, oh wait, not that one. Okay, we already did that one. Jewel asks, ask Robert if he's heard of Ascension Island. It's by Malta.
I have to be honest. Is it Maureen?
Jewel.
Oh, Jewel, I have to be honest. No, I have not heard of Ascension Island. But you know what? I'll look into it. If she could give me a little bit more information, I'll look into it.
All right. And John wants to know if is the Earth tilting?
Absolutely, without a question. The wobble, this is what's happening, John. The Earth wobble has gotten more extreme, and this is one of the subjects that we needed to talk about tonight, which is very prevalent, and we're all seeing it, and we're all being affected by it. The Earth wobble is tilting, and because the Earth wobble has become more tilted in its rotation, okay, it's waning more from side to side. The jet stream now has been pushed out of whack. The polar jet stream, which should be basically around the North Pole, the Arctic, is being pushed down. So now we are having bizarre and extreme weather happening all over the northern hemisphere. The southern Antarctic jet stream is a little more calm, yet it is being disturbed, but it's a little more calmer. Also, this also relates because you have the what's it called? John Moore talked about this as we're starting to think about it back in 2010. What's the word I'm looking for here, Michael? I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. It's
I think I know. I think I know.
You know what I'm talking about? It is the conveyor.
But you're making me forget.
That's right. It is the aquatic conveyor that basically moves the water throughout the planet. Goes up
the Gulf Stream,
the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, the Gulf Stream. Yeah.
That's what I was looking for. Sometimes I have brain farts. I'm sorry, people. I'm thinking about so many things at one time that I get ahead of myself. The Gulf Stream.
I caught your brain fart.
So yeah, the Gulf Stream. John says it has stopped. I don't know if it has stopped completely. I don't have confirmation of that 100%. But John may have that information. And he's, by the way, another great researcher. Of course, he's a researcher. I mean, he's a police officer, you know. I mean, he knows how to do investigations. He goes right to the sources and then questions sources.
Well, yeah,
without knowing that these ones are being questioned, you know.
He's a private investigator. I know that he had some time in the Navy, and I believe it was Navy. That's right. Yeah. And I've had him on the show a few times, and he told me years ago, oh hell, back in 2008 about 2008, he told me that the Gulf Stream had stopped. And you know, I don't know. He said it. I don't know. I've never been able to back it up completely, although I don't doubt that it slowed down. I don't know about stopping though.
Well, here's another part of that, Michael. I mean, if the conveyor has stopped, okay, the Gulf Stream has stopped, and our magnetic pole is shifting drastically, that would account for so many of the aquatic life that we are seeing washing up on shores all over the world. There would be no other question. There would be no other answer to that, simply because of this. All of the aquatic species and mammals have magnetite, you know, in the tip of their noses or slightly towards the forehead of the mammals, which basically guides them and gives them their migratory patterns. This has because the magnetic shift is taking place. They're losing their bearings and don't know where they're going. And you've had beaching after beaching of whales and dolphins, massive fish kills. There would be no other explanation for this. They can't find their migratory pattern, so they're washing themselves up. Okay, so this is causing devastations in the oceans.
Well, there is other possibilities now. There is sonic weaponry that I know the Navy uses, and
I agree with that, Michael. I agree with that, but that's probably less than 1%, in my opinion, because this is happening worldwide.
But it does, but it could contribute in some way, right? I mean,
absolutely. That's why I said it's probably about 1% of a contributing factor to that, in my opinion.
And then
of course, you also have.
Yeah, then there's the Fukushima radiation and stuff like that too.
I was just going to say that.
I would haul ass out of the water too.
Yeah, no, and that's a big contributing factor, but I think it's more localized to the Pacific.
Well, get this:
south and north.
A half-eaten shark was found on the beach. I forget what beach it was in Florida. I think it was in Florida or California, but a half-eaten shark. So you know, I'm thinking, boy, the food chain must be getting pretty shaky out there when they start eating each other like that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it. As you know, as the food gets more scarce, they're going to look for anything they could basically get a meal from.
Oh yeah, so I tell people, I'm telling you, me personally, I won't go in the ocean no more. I used to. I won't no more, because every time I see people running out there and playing in the water, I'm thinking, oh God, I hope they don't get bit by a shark, because I don't want to deal with that, and I'd have to.
Well, and
right?
Michael, there have been more increased shark attacks, dog attacks, all kinds of attacks from non-predatory and domesticated animals. I mean, this is going on almost on a daily basis, but of course, it's never reported by the propaganda mainstream press. But anyway, getting back to the.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this, because this kind of ties right in. And let's see, BR1 says, can you ask your guest how the wobble of the Earth affects the weather so we can all be informed? Well, I guess the wobble of the Earth, if it is wobbling, that would affect the weather. I don't see why it wouldn't.
Well, it's right. It's the jet stream that I was getting to that is affecting us tremendously. As the wobble increases, our jet stream gets more drastic.
Oh, it's way out of whack. It's way out of whack.
It's totally out of whack. I mean, in Pennsylvania, you have 80-degree weather. I'm here in Arizona, Michael, and it's still in the 50s. Okay, so we've
been warm all year long. I mean, it's like I feel like I've been living in Florida, not South Carolina here.
And there you go, Michael. Because what's happening is because the patterns. I mean, look, in I think it's Afghanistan or Pakistan, people are under 10 feet of snow. Now, when has anybody heard of Pakistan and Afghanistan getting 10 feet of snow where people have to dig themselves from out under their house to get out? It's just, it hasn't happened. These are extremes that have never taken place. I mean, you have snow in Vietnam. How is that possible? It's on the equator. None of these things should be happening. They are. Why? Because the wobble.
They had blizzard warnings yesterday in the upper levels of Hawaii. I mean,
exactly.
I never heard of it.
Exactly.
I just never heard of it
and
before.
That's my point. So now, Michael, you saw my video last time. I sent it to you. Now I'm waiting for more images to come up. I'm checking it every day. But again, other people who have all been tracking this, and these are the channels I've been following, have captured images of extrasolar bodies that should not be there. These are not lens flares. They're not image anomalies. They're not solar flares, and they're not sundogs. These are images of different bodies that are in our solar system, and I believe it is part of the binary system. And again, even Carlos Ferrara, who was a physicist and a scientist, predicted these events to take place. Okay, now he's passed, and he said that we should be expecting an increase in earthquakes, volcanism, bizarre weather. He said it all, and it's all happening. And again, you go to Ed Dames. You guys, if you believe in the remote viewing, which I do, I think it's very viable. I think it's very real. Ed Dames himself said, "Look, we're going to have this body come in front of the sun, and it's going to cause a flare, and it's going to push our atmosphere down to down to the ground. A lot of radiation is going to come in, and it's going to really screw things up for a lot of people." He's been working on setting up safe locations, sanctuary locations, I guess. And when he looked into the future with the remote viewing, he said, "You know what? There are very few sanctuaries set up or that exist after this event takes place." And he was absolutely correct when he predicted on our belt, was it not our belt, excuse me, with George Norrie, that an X class, they couldn't even chart it because it was so off the charts, X class 54 solar event took place, and he said that, and it was even admitted by NASA, that saying if that thing would have been Earth directed, it would have been fried.
Yeah, I remember that. They said we were very lucky it went the opposite way, because if it came our way, we would have been fried. I mean, that's what I mean. I mean, it's not. And I read where NASA is looking to send up some kind of probe to the sun, and they're going to figure out, they want to do testing, and they're going to figure out to put something up there to protect us from that kind of thing from the sun.
Sure they do, Michael. That's why they built all these underground bases worldwide. That's why they built these seed vaults, because they want to protect them.
Well, my bigger question would be is how the hell are they getting anything near the sun? You would think that anything we're building here would melt. Right, I would think.
Well, it's cold. Space is very cold. Minus, 200 and I think 70 or 80 degrees. I don't remember the exact numbers. And then, of course, the sun.
But if that heat could get to us, some 95 million, I mean, you would think that.
Well, 93 million miles, Michael, no question about it. But remember, we have an atmosphere, so when those protons, electrons, and neutrons are hitting our magnetosphere, they're heating up the magnetosphere and penetrating that heat. So that's why we feel the effects of it. But you got to remember, it's like it's when you're in space. If you're facing the sun, and let's say it's a satellite, Soho, it's facing the sun, it does have protective shielding, right? But it's also very, very cold. So those radioactive particles and energetic particles that are hitting it are not as effective because they are, they're going at basically almost the speed of light, but they're non-evasive particles, so they're kind of just passing through. It's not like it's actually being hit by plasma or an actual solar flare where it can actually cause that instrument to melt.
Well, then my next issue would be, okay, so NASA's getting ready to send something to the sun. Then I'd have to ask what has already been around our sun. I've seen stuff. I've seen the video.
So have I, Michael.
And it's not fake video.
I know
it's
exactly
real.
What you're talking about.
Yeah. So something's been up there. It looks like drawing energy from the sun almost. So I don't know.
Yeah. That vortexual ball that was, basically sucking in the heliosphere of the sun, drawing it in. God knows if that was a craft, or a planet.
Some say the sun's a Stargate, and that stuff could come and go from there. I don't know. I mean, I there's crazier things that have turned out to be true. So I'm not a stone thrower these days. But
yeah, me either, Michael. I'm not a stone thrower. I give everybody their due diligence. They do the work. They put it out there. If it happens to connect with me, coincide with what I'm thinking, then hey, more power to it. If not, I still won't throw anything away. I listen to what everybody has to say.
Well, listen.
In this business, and if you're researching, you have to have an open mind to everything. You can't just dismiss it because it doesn't fall into your line of thinking.
Well, okay.
You put yourself in a tunnel.
Well. I mean,
Gary McKinnon, without a question.
Yes,
Space Warden.
I emailed back and forth with him. As a matter of fact, he's told me at some point he'll give me an interview. But I asked him, can I at least ask you what you found? And he told me. He says he came across documents that it talked about the Navy fleet, the space security fleet. They've got a Navy fleet in space in orbit. I mean, they're out there flying around.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, without a question. My mind is going.
And he talked about some kind of non-human security force too. I forget exactly how it was worded.
Non-human and human security forces. And here's a connection that I don't know if a lot of people have put together in regards to this, but. The famous case, Fire in the Sky.
Travis Walton, yes.
Travis. Well, probably a lot of people saw the movie, but that was a Hollywood fiction. If you listen to Travis, and I have at some of his lectures, he says what they showed the movie is a complete joke. The reality, what experience is a lot they left out. When he was in this space, when he was in this specific room, more like a star chart map room of some kind, and he was able to play with some of the, I guess, joysticks or panels, whatever they were, looking at different parts of space.
Let's get back to it with Robert. He is my guest tonight. He's Robert. You don't have a website, do you?
Michael, I used to have a website, but that kind of all went away because I basically, transitioned out of the show, and I left my name to a certain network, which I don't need to name any of that stuff because what's important is here right now, what you're doing. So I kind of had to let that all go and gave it away. So no, I don't have a website. And folks, I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to convince you of anything, and I'm not selling anything.
Well, I noticed that.
That's speaking my truth.
That's why I asked, because that's why I sent you an email earlier today, and I said, "Is there anything you want me to promote?" And you just want to come on and speak your truth. Hey, no one appreciates that more than I do. So. But yeah, there's
and that's it. Yeah. And that's it, Michael. It's about speaking truth, doing the research, opening your eyes, and really being aware of what's really going on. Don't fall into the blinding mainstream propaganda that everything's okay and everything will go on as normal. That is why we are where we are. This is why we have been chemtrailed. This is why none of the meteorologists will really truly tell you what's happening on the planet. This is why most scientists are shut down or shut up or killed speaking any truth of what's going on in outer space and in our inner space, because it is a complete and total manipulation. And Michael, they've had 70 years to take control of the situation, to manipulate everyone with what? What is the one thing that manipulates everybody? The money, the cash, the greenback. That's what does it. And the ones who say, no, I'm not doing it, well, they end up silenced in a different way. And we live, in my opinion, Michael, we live on a captured planet. We live on a prison planet.
Well, I agree with you.
Prison planet.
I agree with you, Robert. And I've seen the video of the spaceships flying around by our space station out there, and how they'll turn the camera off when these things get in view. I've seen them with my own eyes. I showed them right here on the YouTube feed that we do a week ago, I don't know. So time is like, it's non-existent here. It's like, Jesus, we do so much, but yeah, I've seen it. And I personally believe, just like the hacker said, who hacked NASA, there is a Navy fleet in space.
He couldn't understand the technology, but yet he was able to manipulate it well. A human entity, and he said he was human, came in and escorted him out. This guy was in a suit of some kind, and he was perfectly human, interacting with non-human entities, okay? And where he was brought onto this very large hangar where there were lots of crafts. Well, there's a connection for you right there. You have human entities and non-human entities in this very large hangar, most likely in outer space. Space Warden. They talk about all these very large crafts, the triangular crafts, but these very large-looking rectangular crafts. I mean, huge.
And I've seen the rectangle. I've seen the triangle crafts too myself. I mean, man, I'll tell you what. If people aren't used to this kind of thing, and they get sitting down with me, and I tell them some of the stuff I saw, they'll swear that I must be, some junkie off the street.
Yeah, of course, Michael. Of course you are. We all are.
But I look for this stuff. I mean, I keep my eyes posted to the sky. I practice what I preach. When I'm outside, it's a waste being out there if I'm not looking up in that sky. I'm always looking for stuff.
My eyes are always in the skies, whether I'm looking for an extra planetary body or whether a triangular craft. My eye is always in the skies. And lately, I've been looking at Venus. And let me ask all of you out there, all you listeners, Michael, how many of you are out there looking at this, our planet Venus, and has anybody noticed how extremely bright it has been? It has never been this bright, and is, in my opinion, closer to us than it ever has been. What has perturbed its orbit to bring it that much closer to us to make it that much brighter? Or is it an extra?
I noticed that. I noticed it too. Very, very, very bright. Now I don't know. I don't. Other than to say that I agree with you, it's awful freaking bright. I don't know.
The luminosity has increased by 2 or 3 fold, Michael. And I always go with my common sense train of thought. Okay. I've been on this planet 50 years, Michael. I've never seen Venus that bright and that long in the night sky through the months and months and months, okay? So if everybody can go back and in YouTube or the Internet, even going back to the 2000s, the information's there. Has anybody ever seen our little Venus that bright? And I say no. So using my common sense, say, well, what would cause it to be so bright? Would it be our sun? Well, they say that our sun has gone into a quiescence. In other words, that the solar maximum is over and we're entering a solar minimum. If that's the truth, the brightness has dwindled from our sun slightly, causing that little planet to be not so bright. But yet here we are looking at it. I'm staring at it right now, Michael, out my back door.